Erythronium umbilicatum, the dimpled trout lily. If you came in here in May, you wouldn't even know this flower exists, and yet it's a total carpet right at this season of the year.
It's rare to see this many dimpled trout lilies together. That we're able to have public access to these sites is a testament to the hard work of volunteers in Florida and Georgia.
We're about 5 miles west of Cairo and about 2 miles east of Wiggum on the south side of US 84.
About 20 years after trout lilies were spotted off the side of US 84, Wilson Baker decided one day to take a peek, with permission of course, on the private land off the road.
About 10 years ago I walked back in here and they just kept going and going to the point that this swath we're standing in is probably 10 or 15 acres of almost solid trout lilies, which is real unusual. People are familiar with this to the north and up in the Appalachians. It's a common plant, and you'd have patches like we've seen today, but not dense carpets like we're seeing.
Through some hard work and a bit of fundraising, land owned by the Flint River Timber Company was turned into a preserve.
The main group that was responsible was the Magnolia chapter of the Florida Native Plant Society. But even though we're in Georgia, but the Georgia Botanical Society also helped out.
The land was bought and given to Grady County.
Grady County was willing to accept it as one of their pieces of property, but they didn't have the money or staff to do the upkeep and what little management's required on it, so they said they'd be willing to take it if we as volunteers would help them. So that's why it's sort of a little different preserve, and you see the signs that were all made by local volunteers and the fairly crude trails. Eventually you might get something more detailed, particularly if you have a little more money.
During the peak blooming season, volunteers like Jan Blue offered guided tours.
I understand the importance of the plant that's here, and I also understand that it's threatened. It's threatened by a lot of invasives, and of course I'm, as a homeowner, one of the people who has contributed to planting things like privet and nandina and the things that are taking over some of our natural areas. So I find it very satisfying to come up here and yank the privet out of the ground and get rid of it and yank the nandina up. And little by little, it's making a difference.
We call these spring ephemerals, or some of the spring wildflowers, and they come on early and do their thing before leaf out. So like on the trout lily, the leaves come up after Christmas and through January, and then they start flowering in February.
A couple of other flowers are in bloom here in the middle of February.
One of the other early spring flowers, the southern tway blade, Listera australis. This is the spotted or mottled trillium. We don't really know why this place is so special, because the woods is not that rare. Something's just right for the trout lilies, obviously.
The biggest concentrations are found on Wolf Creek's western slope.
We think it's related to the slope and also the underlaying clay that keeps the slope moister than it would be otherwise. It's such a floral display. To think that such a small little lily, when you have thousands of them, can literally make a yellow carpet on the understory is pretty amazing.
For WFSU, I'm Rob Diaz de Villegas.